Hello everybody, welcome to this instruction video. In this video I'll be showing you how to make the medium triptych mandala. This is my own design, and in part 1 of the triptych mandalas we made this one. This is the small mandala, and in part 2 we're going to be growing this. So you see it's the same here in the center. We're going to be growing this out to make the medium-sized mandala. So this is part 2. Yarn that I'm using for this project is Triptych Katona yarn. I've got 6 colors of the Katona. So you see here, these are my colors, and I'll be using this to grow the mandala, of course. I'll be taking you through the rows that make up part 2, and I'll be doing this using a 3mm hook. If you're struggling with gauge at any point during this project, on my blog I've got some tips for you on how to tweak your gauge and maybe even make a small adjustment to make sure that your mandala fits in the ring. So let's get started. Taking the rows from part 1 and we're growing from there. Round 10, new color yarn on my hook, and we're going to start in the stitch that's above the petal. So if you look at your flower petal, there's a single crochet around the petal, and then in that single there are 2 doubles, and that second double, this back post stitch that's worked in there, going to work in that stitch. So this color yarn matches the yarn color of part 1 that we finished with. So the single, the 2 doubles, and then the back post stitch that's in that second double. So that stitch there. That's where we're going to start with a standing single crochet. With a standing single. There we go. I'm just going to zoom in a little further so you can see from here on what I'm doing. So you can see 2 single crochets and then in that second stitch there. Now for the repeat, we're going to skip 3 stitches and then we're going to work a petal. So and the petal is going to be 4 trebles, a picot, and 4 trebles. So I'm going to yarn over. Once is for the double, twice is for the treble, so yarn over twice, and now skipping 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, skip, come to the 4th stitch, and in there we work the first treble. So that's 1, 2, 3 times. So that's the first treble. See how I've skipped 3 stitches, and this is the first of 4. So it's 1. Every time yarn over twice. 2. 3, and 4. That's 4 trebles in the 1 stitch. Now a picot, that's chain 3, and then we're going to come back and work a slip stitch in the first chain. So it's 1, 2, 3 chain, and then come back to the first chain worked and work a slip stitch in there. So this is the first chain, and work a slip stitch. And that means in here there's a little circle. We're going to work in that in the next round. Now in the stitch where you already had the 4 trebles, work 4 more trebles. So yarn over twice. So in that same stitch, so that's 1, 2, a bit more yarn, 2, and 3, 4. So 4 trebles to picot and 4 trebles. We're again going to skip 3 stitches. So let's skip 1, and especially this first one, this could be a little hidden by all the stitches you just made. So 1, 2, 3 stitches skip, then the 4th stitch gets a single crochet. So 1 single, and we need to make 2 more, so we're going to make 3. So it's 1, 2, 3. So 3 single crochets. And this last single worked is the same as the single crochet we started with. So this here is the full repeat that you're going to work all the way around. You're going to need to do this 9 more times because you're going to have 10 of these petals here. You're going to have 10 of them all the way around. So I'll just get you started on the next repeat. That means yarn over twice because we're going to work trebles. Then skip 3 stitches again. So 1, 2, 3 skip. Then in this stitch going to work those 4 trebles, picot and 4 trebles. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the 4 trebles. Then the picot, chain 3, and come back to that first chain and work a slip stitch. Some picots there are a single crochet. That's both of them are correct. I just prefer the slip stitch. And then in the same stitch 4 more trebles, and then that completes the petal. And then again skip 3 stitches and work 3 single crochets. I'll just complete this repeat because I'm almost there now anyway. It's going to go a little faster. Yeah. So there was 4 more trebles in that stitch. So I've got 8 trebles in there. Now skip 3 stitches and then work 3 singles. So 1, 2, 3 skip, and then work 1, 2, 3 single crochets. And that was the second repeat. Now go all the way around. You need to do 8 more. And when you come to the beginning, you're of course going to finish with 2 single crochets because the third one, that's this one, is already worked. So you're on your last repeat you'll work only 2 singles and then close on that first stitch. So that means you close in this stitch here, close there with a slip stitch, and then you can also fasten off. Round 11, a new color yarn on my hook, and we're going to start in any of the picots on a petal. Now it doesn't matter where you start, which petal you take, and in this picot we're going to start with a standing single crochet. So that means you're kind of fetching your hook in there because there is a little like opening in there, so just see if you can find it. Sometimes you just need to push a little bit to the left or to the right, but there is an opening there. So insert your hook in there and then start with a standing single crochet. There we go. That is the first stitch of, and this will be also the mark point for the repeat, because so between the picots we're going to work a chain space, a popcorn, a chain space, and then a single crochet in the next picot again. So the repeat, chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, chain 6. And now we're going to come down. You see here these 3 single crochets between the petals in the second one, so this is the center one. We're going to work a double treble popcorn. Now that means for the double we're going to work 5 double trebles, then and then pinch them together to make a popcorn. So the 5 double trebles, 1, 2, 3 times yarn over. So this is because the first one is a double, the second one is a treble, and the third time yarn over is a double treble. Come down, and in the second of these 3 work the stitch. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 times, taking off 2 loops, and that's the first double treble. You need 4 more because we're going to take 5 and then pinch them together. So 3 times yarn over. So that's second double treble, this is a bit of a yarn eater, this double treble popcorn. 4, 3 times yarn over, and they're all in the same stitch, so they're all in that second. I've got 4, I need one more. 1, 2, 3 times yarn over. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There we go, so 5 double trebles in total. Open up this loop, insert my finger. That's just to hold on to that loop, because that way I know that nothing's going to happen to it, because that would be, that would be a pity. Then come back to the first of these 5 stitches. Insert your hook, pick up the loop, and then pull your working yarn through that first stitch. And chain 1 to close the double treble popcorn. Now again, chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then come to the next picot and work a single crochet in there. So again, just kind of, yeah, insert your hook. You see, if you hold your finger to the back, it'll be easier to just kind of, you know, push your hook through there. And then work a single crochet. And then this stitch is the same as the stitch we started with. So again, chain 6. So here for the next space, chain 6, then the double treble popcorn, another chain 6, and then the single crochet in the next picot. Just be aware that the double treble popcorn closes with a chain 1. So that means that for this space here, after the double treble popcorn, you'll actually be making 7 chains after, one after the other. But the first chain still belongs to the popcorn. So that's why it's not explicitly in the pattern like chain 6, chain 7. But it is chain 6, then the double treble popcorn, which includes a chain 1, and then 6 more chains and the single crochet again. So repeat this all the way around. And when you've come back to the beginning, you'll close after your last chain 6, you'll close here on this first stitch. If I can just get my hook in there properly. There we go. Close on that first stitch with a slip stitch, and you can also fasten off. Round 12, new color yarn on my hook. And in this round we're going to work front post single crochets around the single and the popcorn, and in all the chain spaces we work 7 single crochets. Now we're going to start at any picot, doesn't matter which one. So here the single crochet that's worked in a picot. So I'm going to start here with a standing front post single. Now what that means is just scoop up the stitch, so from the back, so front, back, and to the front again, scoop that stitch, and then I'm not happy with how that goes, and then work a single crochet, a front post single. And I really want it around this stitch. There we go. So a front post single crochet around that single that's in the picot, and this, like I said, it's a little floppy here, so you also saw me just hold your work a little tight, and that makes it easier. In the next chain space, 7 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. There we go, 7 single crochets. The popcorn gets again a front post single, so that means scooping around the popcorn, and this also pinches the popcorn nicely together, a front post single. And in the next chain space, 7 single crochets again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 single crochets. The next stitch is again a single crochet that's in the picot, so it's similar as the stitch we started with. Here again a front post single crochet. And this is of course the same as the standing stitch we made. There we go. And this is the same as that stitch, which means everything in between is the repeat. So again 7 singles in the next chain space, a front post single around the popcorn, 7 singles in the chain space, a front post single around this single crochet. Go all the way around. When you're back at the beginning, close here on the first stitch with a slip stitch, and then also leave your yarn attached for the next round. Round 13. This round we're going to work a double crochet on every stitch. Now, the first one is a chain 3. 1, 2, 3. This counts as your first double. And now work a double crochet on every stitch, and you do this all the way around. So this is a nice relaxing round, just a double crochet on every stitch. When you're back at the beginning, close with an invisible join. That has to do with the next round where we'll be doing back post stitches, and then your then the edge you get is just nicer if you do an invisible join. So for now, a double on every stitch, and when you've worked the last stitch, close with an invisible join on over the first stitch, so creating those loops like we've done before. Then I'll see you for the next round, which is also the last round. Round 14, a new color yarn on my hook, and we're going to work a standing back post half double on any stitch, and then a back post half double on the rest. So I'm going to yarn over for the first stitch, hold on to that, and then I said it doesn't matter where you start. I'm just going to take this stitch and work a standing back post half double, and then on all the other stitches around the posts, back post half double all the way around. And for this mandala, the one I'm making now, is the medium mandala. Leave your yarn attached because you're going to use the same color to attach it to the ring. And if you're making the large mandala, which you're of course also going to be making this round for, then you can cut your yarn. So for now I'm going to go all the way around, doing a half double back post on all the stitches. And when I'm all the way around, I'll just show you what this one looks like and what the large mandala looks like, and then we'll connect it to the ring. So I've just completed the round of back post half doubles on the medium mandala, and I've still got my yarn attached because I'm going to attach this to the ring in a moment. And this is what the large mandala looks like at this point. So I've made it in exactly the same pattern, fastened off, and work away all my yarn tails. The tip: work away all your yarn tails before attaching it to the ring. That really does make life easier. So this is the large mandala. I'm going to put this away. We're going to continue with this in part 3. For now, this is the mandala, what it looks like now, and we'll attach it to the ring. You're going to attach the mandala to the ring, the medium mandala. Your mandala at this point should be give or take 22 centimeters, which is about 10% smaller than the 25 centimeter ring. If your mandala is larger than 22 centimeters, you won't be able to stretch it, because that's what we want to do, is we want to stretch it into the ring, and that'll keep it a little tight and in position. If your mandala is much larger, for example, it's already the size of the ring, or even larger than the ring, on my blog I give some tips for what you could do to tweak your pattern to make it fit. So I've got some tips about that, link in the video description. So at this point your mandala is about 10% smaller than the ring. We're going to attach it in the same way as we did with this with the small mandala. So single crochets 2 together and then all the way around. The footage that I'm going to show you is from the small mandala, because it keeps getting harder to get this in front of the camera. So I'm going to show you the footage from the small mandala. For now, I'm going to go to connecting the mandala to the ring using single crochet 2 together stitches. To finish the small mandala, we're going to attach it to the first ring, and this is a ring of 15 centimeters. And your mandala itself should be at this point give or take 13 centimeters. The idea is that it's about 10% smaller than the ring, because we're going to slightly stretch it up to get it to fit nice and snug into the and really open up this pattern. So you want it to be slightly smaller than the ring, about 10%. So minus 13 centimeters on a 15 centimeter ring. Now to join this to the ring, chain 1. This is not a stitch, it's just to get you to the correct working height. And I'm just going to zoom in a little further so that you can really see what I'm doing on attaching this ring. Going to work a single crochet 2 together in the current stitch, the next stitch, and the ring. Now what do we do? So we're currently here in this stitch with a slip stitch. So I'm inserting my hook into that stitch where I'm currently at, and because there's a slip stitch there, might be a little snug. So into the stitch, then go with your hook underneath the ring, and the yarn is over the ring, and pick up the yarn from the back and bring it forward. Now come to the next stitch. Insert your hook into that stitch. Go underneath the ring. Your yarn is already here to the back, so grab that yarn and bring it forward. You now have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and take them all off. And that was a single crochet 2 together, worked over the current stitch and the next stitch and the ring. This idea we're going to repeat all the way around, so I'll show you again. In the current stitch, so that's the stitch where we just finished, so you're going to, in that same position, insert your hook, go underneath the ring, the yarn is from the top, grab your yarn, bring it forward. Come to the next stitch, go underneath the ring, pick up the yarn from the back, bring it forward, and take it off and pull through. And it's important to always take the stitch where you finished as your first yarn over. The reason is that this will result in just more loops covering the ring. So that's why we're doing it this way, as opposed to just working single crochets all the way around, which is of course an option. It's definitely an option. But by doing this, what's happening is that you're going to have more yarn overs covering the ring, so you're going to be hiding the ring better. So that's the idea. So in the current stitch and the next stitch, and then take them off. And this is a slow process, so you're going to have to take your time on working these stitches. So I'm going to make a jump in the video, and then I'll be all the way around, and then I'll just show you the closing, because I'm going to close this with an invisible join. So go all the way around. When you're further through, you'll have to start stretching the mandala and just giving it, easing these stitches around the ring as it stretches up. But continue like this: a single crochet 2 together in the current stitch, the next stitch, and the ring. And when you're here, then I'll see you back. Almost all the way around. I have a few stitches left. See, I've got one unworked stitch there. So current stitch and the next stitch, that's still unworked. So that means here, and then also the next one, and take them off. And the last stitch will be in, well, both of them will be worked already, because you've got here this stitch which already has a loop, of course, and the next stitch, which is the stitch where we started. So there's that slip stitch in there. So both of these already have a stitch. So that's one And then here I'm just going to eyeball where I put it, because it can be a little tricky to get there in there. There. And take off. And that was the last stitch. It looks a little messy here, but don't worry, we're going to fix that. Cut your yarn and open up this loop. I'm going to thread the yarn on my needle, and to make this look more pretty, I'm just going to come into you can either take this stitch or the next stitch, it really doesn't matter, because the idea is we're going to pull this tight anyway. So I'm actually going to take that stitch, I'm going to work over this one. And then pull this a little tight, closing that stitch, and then come back into the last stitch worked in there, and then just push that a little to the back and grab a loop or two at the back also. That'll just help to secure this yarn. And pull this a little tight, closing these stitches and closing this gap. You can see how pretty it now looks. So I'm just going to work away this yarn tail and the one that's to the back here. I do that if I just turn it around by just working into the stitches here that are just under the ring. I kind of tend to hide it there. I'm just going to work away these yarn tails, and then we're finished. When you're all finished, this is what your medium mandala looks like, nicely set in the ring. Thank you for watching. In part 3 we'll complete the third mandala of the set.